Bindle, they get the these start slowly. These Upanishads, it takes. We're already through the second canto, and the lead up is slow. It doesn't get to, it's good for people like me, but it takes time, I guess.
Yeah,
When they wrote it, they want to cultivate people to take it slowly and thoughtfully, I guess.
that's why my selection of Upanishads were such that first one was simpler. You got a glimpse of what it is. Second one gave you what is your destination. Now, in this Upanishad, you are knowing what is not and what is to be done. Both what is not and both are given in this one in a very, systemized way of following up. So that is why there is a methodology in which these Upanishads were followed by me.
Srinivas, how many times do you think you've gone through Mundaka?
Maybe 2 times before this, and after Rabindraji, finishes, I'll go through again once.
And do it on your own, and which version, which translation?
No, I have some lectures of my gurus, so mostly I go through these lectures and just the same thing from that big PDF. There is 8-volume Upanishad translation by Swami Gambhirananda. I think I go through that sometimes just for reference.
What I like about this is that from a structural perspective, the way Bindo is describing it, the way he leads us through it is there's a strategy in that sense of building that mind and building the knowledge base to provide the scaffolding so that there's context to the higher knowledge once the higher knowledge starts getting infused. And I think that's impressive. I asked Jadaveda in terms of if he's a Brahmin, but just anyone, if you're raising children or raising a culture or raising a community, how do you build a mind? How do you create a beautiful world? And if everyone's minds are full of garbage and lust and nonsense, because that's the culture in which raise that child. If the images that the child is exposed to, and the literature, cartoons versus stories, that this is where I think the argument for a structured lesson-based education that leads to self-awareness can be really powerful. Of course, it's not for everyone, and some people just don't really care about these ideas, but it's just one path, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the things that totally takes the pressure off for me is all the Advaita Gurus are saying all you need to do is you have to pursue enlightenment or the knowledge, and rest will take care of itself. Like one of the really, when I was first reading to that Uddharati Atmana Atmanam Na Atmanam Avsadayat in Gita, so yeah, that kind of things when Gita and all say, it takes all you need to do is just do your thing, and it's also I relate it to the statement which says Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. So as long as your mind is I would say for now studying the right things, your actions will automatically reflect. And generally it is well known that people learn from your actions than your words. So all these things I think it kind of takes the pressure of at least I need to concentrate is just on my own upliftment, and the other upliftment will take care of itself.
And that action is a result or consequence of that mind. And the Ashtanga Patanjali Sutras, when I first got the notion of the sutras, it was like the similar commandments, so to speak, the yamas and yamas. And there's probably some truth to, following guidelines, so to speak. Even though you really want to do something, the guidelines are such that it controls you to not do it. But once the higher knowledge is revealed, right action, right speech, and so on flows from that state. So it's not, the commandment is not needed in any way.
Yeah. I think that one can only also know again that this mantra, that last penultimate one, is so revealing that only when we try it out, like first one should try giving commandments, try out all the things, pariksha loka, experiment in the world, and only when it naturally sets in that the thing you should pursue is the knowledge, and then everything it comes back to the same thing, that words cannot change a person. It's only that experimenting and that action, when he experiences on its own, only that will give the conviction at some point that okay, now I have to keep everything away and only do this. At least that is the first clearing out the dust part, and then it works. So I think it's difficult just based on the reading or something, but one has to really try out, like really understand on his own that setting commandments doesn't work, or doing this doesn't work, or like Karmana, nicely Arbindoji just now explained, what is the positive result of this, what will happen if I do this, and if I don't do this, what will happen. So these kind of things, once are really tested out in the world, only then that thing can set in. And I think that's how I think it's more natural. And with a little contemplation, everyone would easily come into the lap of Upanishads, I guess.
Bindo, do you remember, I know in the ashram you studied all of this with your guru, but do you remember, was it your grandma who first started introducing you to the Upanishads and going through them with you, or what was your first recollection of that?
No, my Upanishad teaching was definitely from Chinmayananda. My grandmother gave me the ambience to have that Shraddha, or the faith in the Shastra. And it was more of stories about Krishna and Mahabharata, etc., from my grandmother, which gave the foundation to have a faith in the tradition.
Did Chinmayananda go through them verse by verse like you are?
Yes, he has done that word by word, and his commentaries are also more addressing towards up to the present day generation. He did not address it from the traditional, people who kept on to the path of the Vedic life, how it is and how it is done that type. He was more relating it towards how it is useful in today's life. So that has given me a lot of input. Then Swami Harinamanda, who also taught me a lot of the modern approach to mixing psychology and, the Freudian psychology and the Psychology Today magazines he used to bring and share it. So that I knew that I should not be just limiting myself to the Sanskrit and the Upanishads alone. I should keep myself up to date with the development in the modern world also, because nothing can be compartmentalized unless the knowledge is full. From that point of view, I was blessed to be with him, and then the entire Shankara Bhashya with the Sanskrit and commentaries were taught to me by Swami Kaivalyananda, who is teaching classes in the Amritananda ashram in Kerala. But that it was taught in Kerala Malayalam language. So that lectures, I've got 2000 hours of lectures with me, but I can share it only with people who can understand that language.
I have a question. Where do desires come from?
Very simple. Desires comes from ignorance.
No,
The
but
not knowing the reality of the object in front of you makes you feel like that is something to be desired about. If you know the reality of everything is the same and the one, how can there be desire?
Yeah, but one desires water when that person is thirsty.
See, that you can't call it as a desire. That is just a requirement of the body.
Right.
What is desire is what is not needed, yet you want to possess it. That is what is called desire. Like water, food, etc. do not fall under that question of desire. It is for, the body requirement.
Mr. Bindu, I understand what you're saying, but now this knowledge, it's there as an idea in my head, but it's not in my experience. And I'm desiring and I'm suffering. Now, what do I do? Like, and also, why is that? Like, right now, I might be desiring chocolates and then wanting to have a lot of it, but you don't necessarily desire chocolates. Why is it that I desire some things and another desires something very different? And how does then one drop it?
These type of things will happen as a natural tendencies of the mind, which the mind has been trained to in our day-to-day life. Over a period when you know that what is what and how it should be handled, that that viveka or the discrimination which we develop, what should be done, what should not be done, why it is happening, if it is also known, then you will know how to have a control on your mental behavior, and your mind will be more and more trained. When your mind is getting more and more trained, you will have more control on your tendencies and desires, which otherwise will prompt you towards an activity which goes unending. So this is why the word which in the mantra, when I said Pariksha Lokan Karmachidan, Akrita Kritena, both Krita and Akrita. So what is to be done, what is not to be done, what are the consequences, is it in my interest of desire, or is it taking me to the direction which I want to progress, or I am looking for. That choices have to be done by the individual. This is where the mind and the intellect becomes tuned to a certain direction. These are the qualities of an adhikari also, a student who wants to go in a direction. If he wants to go in the music, he will have to do it in the music sense. He will have to go for acting, he'll have to do it in that way. If he wants to go in a spiritual path, he has to do it that way. The training of the mind is the first and foremost requirement for any learning. And that is where everything begins with.
Namaste, Arvindji. I have a silly question.
Nothing is silly.
If there are two, okay, if there are two things to choose from, I know one is good and the other is bad. At times, even knowing that this thing is bad, uh, I choose that only. And it is as if I can shut my mind completely, the rational mind, during that time and go with it, knowing that it may be bad. So, can it be turned around? Meaning, can the rational mind be active most of the time and the bad things can be negated? Meaning, I have seen this with my observation that it is somehow such that uh, once decided or one doesn't take a U-turn.
Well, if I don't remember exactly the shloka from Mahabharata where Yudhishthira says, no, Kenapi Devena, so as if prompted by some force from within myself. I don't know, I am getting involved in this crime. Even though I know that I should not be doing it, I am getting to done as if prompted by some power from within. That is exactly what you are mentioning now. Now this is why what is happening is that there is a moment in our intellectual capacity which can be overridden by the fruit of action of a previous karma. There, the mind becomes in a dilemma as to whether I should follow my intellect or whether I should follow my instinct or the desires of the sense organs. And because of the predominancy of the power karma phala, or the fruit of action which you have done earlier, that moment can come and your intellect can be overridden by the desire to go towards the wrong direction. But it is this time when you have to take the support of a third thing, either what we call it as a Apta Purusha, or a person whom you are believing in, or as per Gita says, no, you have to tasma shastram pramanam te. Therefore, you have to depend upon the shastra, or you say that I'll go as per the shastras. Knowing very well that your intellect is subdued by the karma phala and the temptation for the involvement in a activity which should not be done. The third aspect of either an acharya or a guru or a shastra only can be used as a prop for stopping that. Otherwise, the karma phala being predominantly forceful can override your intellect. And to compensate for the shortage of the karma phala with the intellectual thing, you can resort to shastra or a guru to ask for before getting involved. If you can postpone an action and take the support and then do the action, is the best. But there are moments where you don't even have a time to ask or get into this. That is why where they say you should always have shastram in your mind to refer to. It is not a book which is kept in a bookstore or in a shelf in a room. The shastra, the teachings of the shastra should be with you all the time. Then the shastra will teach you, guide you from within. Even when your intellect is subdued by the karma phala of the previous action. That is when he gets in the support of the shastra by his own learning. And that is why the importance of learning of the shastra is important.
Thank you, Arvinderji. Okay, follow up to that. So, is this connected to what is called the Shat Sampatti?
Shat Sampatti is basically personality development towards a higher learning. In the Samadama, Uparati, Diksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam, all those things are basically tuning our personality to be more attentive for the class or the teachings. It is not with which your intellect gets a higher capacity to decide at that time. Definitely it will be helpful because that your undue involvement in the, expending nature of the energy will not happen. It will be more concentrated and directed. It will help, but that Shatsambati is more towards the personality development rather than the support of Shastra.
Yeah, I wish to describe my own situation, trying to catch hold of Aurobindoji's sessions, largely this session that goes on Wednesday and Friday. Caught up in the rat race, and try to make up time in between. And today, somehow, I'm able to catch the glimpse of the session again, which is in a nice grace with the grace in Arbindoji. The grace is flowing. We just need to catch it. A beautiful narration, way I perceived, because in Bhagavad Gita it says karma phala tyaga and karma sannyasa. While this Upanishad asking you to examine the futility of karma itself, it will not take you anywhere. The punya can manifest, enjoyment. Are you, whether you're even at the right age to the futility of this whole waiting to get your desires fulfilled through karma, or even going into immortality through karma is futile exercise. Get away from this. So that is it opens up the channel now towards the Brahmagnana. So that's thanks for a great narration there. And the second, I think, thing I caught was don't get lost in this. Water as an example is too powerful. It'll, all the knowledge will be overridden by the power of, that water. Why? The life is like that. I think life is a whirlpool. Whatever you're trying to do in terms of karma, try to get, result of karma in this whirlpool. This will come and override you anyway. So get away from this. Open up towards the Brahmagnana, and it described the nature of Guru. The patience hit me big, comparing, my own Guru, like Prajna. I think that was, all a beautiful narration. Thank you, Arbindoji. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Deep, I want to make a clarification of the word karma. It is the most misunderstood word because of the anglicized version of karma means action. The karma which the Shastras talk about, when I'm saying Shastra, I'm talking about both the Shruti and Smriti, Upagita and Upanishad. Everything is included in that. From the aspect of the Indian knowledge system, karma has a different meaning, not action. As per the divisions of karma, the karma is divided into different aspects. One is called Nitya Naimittika. Nitya means daily actions. Naimittika means actions which are needed based on the event. An event is nimittam, and Naimittika means triggered by an event. There will be actions required for it. Nitya karma is our daily duties, as depending upon what is your stage in life, whether you are a student, whether you are a young man or an adult or an old man, whether you are what type of job you are doing, that also is it. Now, there are karmas which are otherwise divided at sahaja and non-sahaja. Sahaja means what is part of our life maintenance. Jam means jananam. Sahajam means born along with that, where the thirst, hunger, procreation, ablution, excretion, sweating, closing our eyelids, the digestion which is taking place inside the stomach. These are all called sahajam. And what is asahajam is, or what is not sahajam is, what is prompted by desires. Now, what is prompted by desires was categorized by the Shruti or the text as Vidhi and Nishedam. What is to be done and what is prohibited. So, what is prohibited is never to be done. Even in a situation of exception, you cannot do it. Whereas in the Vidhi itself, there are two things where you can do it, but there are also which if you forget to do it or if you do it wrongly, you can do a prayaschitta, or you can do a method in which you can do a rectification, but at a extra, doing something extra to it. Now, when the Shruti or when the Gita or Upanishad is talking about this is, the category only followed by desires are covered in that. What is sahajam or what is we are born with is not part of karma at all. They are not called karma at all. That is part of living. So when the Shruti or when the text says to address the karma, in the mind of the rishis or the teachers, they are addressing only what is prompted by desires. In that, Vidhi and Nisheda are the two categories which you have to do. Nisheda is something which you should never do. Vidhi is the one which you should follow as per what is told to be done. Now, the karma tyaga or the abandonment of karma, what is being told in the text is only the desired karma falling under the category which is called Vidhi. Like for example, for the benefit of getting a child, Putraka Mishti Yaga should be done. For the benefit of going to Surga, this thing should be done. For getting a kingdom, winning a kingdom, Ashwamedha should be done. Like that, there have been many situations which are done. So if you look at today's parlor, none of these rules have got any relevance at all. Yet, desire and desire prompted actions, not defined by that, the textual meanings of the Shastra are still existing in the mind of humanity. It is not talking about our life sustenance activities for which you have to do a job, get your food, clothing and shelter. That is part of your sahaja because you need to maintain your body. But going beyond your need, aggrandizing or acquiring wealth beyond proportion, or what is not yours, desiring for that at hook, crook, or whatever may be that, stealing or what method of acquiring such vessels, these are the things which are prohibited. It comes under the Nishida. So, we need a clarity as to when we are talking about in the point of Gita or in the point of Upanishads, what we are talking about is Kamya Karma or desired motivated actions. Na kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma. What you said is the one exactly Gita says. Never can we remain in a state of inaction. Na karmanam anarambat kai naishkarmyam purushoshnadev. Na karmanam anarambat. By not initiating an action, don't think you are attaining the state of actionlessness. The actionlessness, what is being told in the Gita, is coming from karma sannyasa. Karma sannyasa is that state where you have no interest in doing or performing any actions which are desired motived or prompted by desires. So, from that point of view, karma sannyasa is what is nishkarmata bhavam, or the state of actionlessness or non-doership will happen. But that is not an easy job. For that, you have to go through the steps of coming from karma yoga. When you start doing the karma as a yoga, There the yoga has a meaning is when you yat kurushyati yadasnasi tat kurushamadarpanam. That is the state of yoga when you start. There the arpanam or the yaga, what is talking is that all actions what you are doing, yat kurishyati yadasnasi, whatever you do or whatever you consume, that should be offered as to an offering to that force, which is the force which is controlling everything in the world. So that type of an attitude, when it develops in a person, then samatvam yoga uchyate. Then he comes to a state of equilibrium of that he is neither prompted by desires nor he is running away from action. He becomes a state of man of equilibrium who does his jobs as per the need of the hour, not driven by the desires. So such a stage a person only can go into a state of karma sannyasa, means to the abandoning the doership also. When you don't have a desire, when you do things as naturally as your requirement of the society or your own body requirement or the thing, you don't own the actions anymore. It is the need of the hour, you do it whatever it is. This is what the karma sannyasa will lead you to a state of actionlessness. And a person who has succeeded in getting that, for him, no action will ever bind him. Such a person is the one who becomes free from the bondage of action, and his mind is pure, where he can learn and gain the knowledge of that tattva or that truth, which everything is coming with. Yatova imani bhutani jayante yeta jatani jivanti yat pravitya visham vishanti tad brahmam. That Brahma, what is that from which everything comes, in which everything remains, into which everything goes? That truth can be known only in such a mind. So this is where the word karma has to be understood in the real sense. And when you anglicize it and look it from as an action, there can be always a misguided or misplaced translation or understanding of that word. I just want to clarify that, that's all.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Would you say that in actionlessness, how would you say that in let's say Sanskrit? How would you call that? Is there a Sanskrit word for that?
Karmani akarmaya, akarmani karmaya. That is a sloka in the Bhagavad Gita. Karmand. Seeing inaction in action and action in inaction. Who can make out the difference between the two? He is the one who is a yogi. He knows the balance between the two. Where the action is required for the benefit of the action, he does that. Where the action is happening but he has no desire, yet the action takes place, he doesn't own it. So he is akarmaya pasyan. He doesn't see the action in it because it is no more driven by his own desire. So this is that sloka. If you go and study that meaning, I think essays on Gita, Aurobindo has explained it very well, beautifully explained this particular sloka. If you want, you should read that, and you will know that exactly in the modern philosophical sense what that sloka can mean to all of us.
So this is what I am, I think, pointing to, that still in that, even in that verse, the connotation of the word karma is because in the very verse that you just said, which I like, and you translated in English, action in inaction, inaction in action, which means that they are pointing to something that is beyond action and inaction. And I think that is what I was trying to say, that the word karma in itself, in the scripture, to me, seems to refer to action, the word, just by itself, unless the word karma sannyas is mentioned. Because if karma and akarma both are mentioned together, and in this kind of suggestion that in action there should be inaction, and in action there should be action. So I think that's the idea, that they are pointing to something else which is beyond the karma and akarma, which is beyond the karmani and the akarmani. And so the sense of the word karma, and so when we say that we get rid, I do understand exactly what you're saying, and that is that the attitude in which you do the karma is really what matters. Are you doing it with this end in mind, that you want to, let's say, uh, uh, hold for yourself, or you want for yourself? Or is it done because it is a kind of a part of the natural order of things? It is a part of the, let's say, all the different karmas you said, your householder duties or XYZ or whatever, maybe your professional duties. So, or are you working to get something out of it? But the sense of the word karma, again, is action. And so that's what I was saying, that when we say that we have to get away from karma, then it seems to give a one-sided suggestion, because it talks about inaction, it talks about action in inaction, but it is not talking about the inaction in action. And both, I think, have to go together.
See, this balancing between the both can happen only a person who has known his own reality. Till the such time that doesn't happen, the actions are a reality, and that actions will be seen from the point of view of a requirement to do by the person who is following the path. The inaction can be seen only person who is not even involved in the action. He doesn't feel that the body is his. The action is only at the body level. Manasa, Vacha, Karmana is still in the body level, including mind is a part of the body. So he doesn't see that he is the mind, he is the body, he is not the sense organs of action and knowledge. It is an instrument of waking. There is an instrument of dream which is different. There is a dream, there is an instrument. Beyond the instrument, there is an observer of all that. The observer never identifies with actions, whether whichever form, whichever state he is in at that time. So a person who is established in that and looks from that point of view, that the Sakshi Bhava or the Asanga Bhava. So when the Asangatvam comes, only when such a state, the person can be seeing the inaction in action. The action is happening for the state of awareness in which it is happening. But he is not getting involved in the action, he is an observer of the action. He is a Sakshi for it. So that is what he is saying. At the same time, he has an action of observing. Where there is no action, observing is not an action, he is observing. So from his point of view, in the inaction of observing, there is an activity of observing, which is also not his. Because it's only his presence. The presence of the sun makes everybody work. The sun doesn't feel that he is the one who is causing the action. His presence makes the action work. And everybody is prompted to act in the presence of the sun. Something similar to that, we can say the person who has known his reality, he, even though sees himself as an observer, he is not observing in the sense of reality of observing, because for him, the observation itself doesn't happen. So these are all a level at which only if one can stand from that point of view, you can decipher and understand it from the statement. If you look at it from the ordinary literal meaning of the words, it may be confusing.
Arvindji, I would request your grace to guide us and enlighten us. There is something regarding the Neshkarme Siddhi also. And if I know Srimad Bhagavad Gita encompasses everything, but we are creating this situation and enjoying this satsang. So the Neshkarme Siddhi is also out there, the Tattvamasi and everything is also explained. And again, in one of the places, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says that nobody can avoid karma itself. So to celebrate the difference and the understanding, I request your grace on this. And thank you so much.
Srinivas, you are studying Neshkarma Siddhi of Sureshwaracharya, no?
Yeah, Arvindji, I'm in the middle, correct.
What does that say? Sureshwaracharya has explained it.
Yeah, I finished the first part. I think I'm now entering the Tattvamasi part. But first part he brutally makes it clear what, how, I think how there is no way to achieve liberation by karma. So I'm there as of now. In first chapter or Khanda or whatever it is called, the first part. So basically he tells in multiple different ways. He takes the Purva Paksha, like the opponents, and he takes the side of the Jnana Marga and says why. So basic thing I can tell is the basic argument is you can leave your Kamya Karma, which Arvindaji has been saying. Kamya Karma meaning your desire-oriented actions. I don't need a Ferrari, I don't need $1 million, but I'll still keep doing normal karmas. And what will eventually happen is I will not accumulate any new karma. So my old karma will get exhausted. And once my balance get exhausted, I will get liberated is the Purva Paksha. As in, the people who say that there is, so the Purva Paksha is very strong saying there is nothing called jnana. So all the world is only karma. There is nothing called jnana and something like that. So they will say that just by not and going into kamya karma, I can exhaust all my old janma karma and eventually I'll get moksha. But for that he tells a lot of things even by doing nitya naimittika and even the natural karmas, you will accumulate more agami, and this is such a way that actually that is not at all possible. So just by not doing anything, you exhaust your old karma and eventually your slate becomes clean and you'll get mukta is one of the main theories. It's pure philosophy, of course, it is not very, it's very dry also. So one of the things I remember is that, but basically he is devoting a lot of pages only to clean our cup, that no matter whatever kind of karma you want to do, you can never achieve the liberation, in the sense this kind of liberation where the freedom or something like that.
Sanigi, basically we should understand where all this is coming from. What is prompting us for action? The prompting for action is from the state of ignorance of separatedness. When I have something other than me, then there is two, in between there can be an activity, an action. So the root cause for anything is the ignorance of not knowing the reality of everything. Once we learn the reality of things from the Shastra and Gurumukha, from Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhi Avataranam, when that happens, then you come to a stage of Neha Nanasti Kinchana. There is nothing other than me everywhere in this world. When you don't see anything other than you see yourself in everything. Sarvam Khalidam Brahma. What happens is that there is no question of desire coming up. Desire comes up only when you see something other than you to desire about. When you are in your own nature, your absolute pure nature where there is nothing other than you, was there any desire in you when you're in your deep sleep? You were everything, you were full. There was no need of anything else. There was no desire at that time. Yet you remain full and knowing that there is nothing other than you in that state. So all the desires which is from the misapprehension of the reality of the apparent things which is outside. The name and form of the objects are taken as reality, not their Swarupa or their truth in each of the object which you see. The object outside is not an object outside. It is your awareness in which a name and form appears. You call it as an object outside. If you remove your awareness, that object doesn't exist. An object which doesn't exist, you cannot have a desire. And an object which doesn't exist and where there is no desire, there is no need of an action for acquiring that, or repel that, or to do anything with that. So once we know the reality of the existence of the name and form of the world, how will we know that will be the first question which should come. For knowing that, we should know who we are. When you know who we are, you will know everything. Yat jnatva sarvamidam vijnadam bhavati. Knowing which everything becomes known. Because you are everything. So knowing you know not only you know what is the nature of everything also. And then there is no you and that. Aham Brahmasmi or Tadattvamasi. Both are becoming valid only at that stage. This is what is the entire Upanishads. Whatever name of the Upanishads you take, it is teaching only this truth of that. Remove your ignorance by knowledge. Your actions are coming out of ignorance of separatedness you have created because of not knowing who you are. Is the reason by which you are prompted by the actions. And know yourself. When Ramana Maharshi said who you are, to find out that, or when Nisargadatta Maharaj told, or Ramashna said, or Vivekananda said, Shankara said, or the Rishis of the Upanishad says, all of them are saying, do you know who you are? Or what is your nature? Once you know that, you will know what is everything. Then there is nothing more to be learned. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. Kaivalyam is a kevalata bhavam. Means that unique experience of there is nothing other than that. That can be achieved only through jnana. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. And that is the state of freedom. That is the state of limitlessness. That is eternity. That is immortality. Anything you want to put the name, you can do that. There is nothing other than that.
Very beautiful. Completion. Pranam once again at your lotus feet, Sri Aurobinji. Very beautiful this, what has been spoken with my folded hands. Should be listened to 8,008 times. And again and again and again. Sri Aurobinji has graced us with everything. Thank you so much, Pranam once again. Thank you so much.
Arbindoji, I have a question.
Yes, Ji. Yes.
This, the Kaivalya, the Kevala Jnana, to achieve that, it is
through jnana only we have to achieve that state of mind. Right. So, after achieving Kaivalya, will there be any distinction as knower and the known? Or is jnana, or is there any path like that, knower and known? Will that discrimination be there? Or once Kaivalya is achieved, even jnana becomes obsolete? The path also vanishes, I feel. Is it true?
See, we have to see from the point of, I'll give an example. When you wake up, you knew that every object experienced the world and the sun, the moon, or the objects or the people, including yourself in your dream, were nothing other than your own mind. That knowledge of Kevalata of the dream was my mind is an information or a knowledge for a waker. But that knowledge doesn't remain with us, because when we go back to the dream again, we are not having that knowledge with us. We dream again. What happens in the waking is that we have a memory of waking from childhood till now, which we are having it. So, when you have the knowledge that everything in the waking is also from that, this me in waking, my world in the waking, my objects in the world, and the entire prapancha of the waking is from that reality which is nothing other than me. All the gold ornaments are nothing but gold. Same way, all the objects including me and the world outside in the waking is also from that one reality. When that knowledge once is clear in your mind without any doubt or any malam or the dirt, doubt, the three forms of dirt that can prohibit the shining of the knowledge within us, that knowledge becomes a knowledge which cannot be forgotten. Because no knowledge once learned can be forgotten. I was telling this answer to Anu in the previous room, where you don't have to remember you are a human being all the time. But you will never do anything which is non-human, even if you don't remember you are a human being. Same way, you will not do, even in waking, anything which is without that knowledge. That knowledge becomes your nature, that I am not more in the body. See, today we are all operating that I am a human being, I am the body. When my knowledge comes and shines in with me that I am not just the body, I am the body, I am using the body, it's an instrument for me, my reality is my awareness. And if my awareness is not there, even the body cannot function, so the body is an instrument. And it is the same awareness with which every object is shining and becoming known to me. When that awareness is what my real nature, and when everything is that awareness, then there is Kevalata. And that knowledge can never be challenged or never be removed. You will know, even when we are acting, you are eating food, or you are talking, when I am talking to you as Ganesh, or I am talking to Patrick, or anybody, Sunny, or anybody for that matter, we will have that knowledge that everyone is nothing but the same awareness, but different in the name and form only. The difference is that, but the name and form is superimposed in my and the awareness, that my awareness only. I do not find a differentiation between that appear name and form when I see it from the awareness point of view. But as a name and form, they may be appearances. So the transaction will happen from the point of view of name and form, but there won't be any desire or any hatred, because I know that reality of the name and form is same as me, as awareness. The transaction will be from the name and form point of view, but the nature of myself, this body which is being as a name and form, is another name and form of the same body. With Ganesh is another name and form, but the nature of Ganesh is my same awareness as my awareness, which I call it as Aurobindo. So where will be that Kevalata is at the substratum level, not at the transactional level.
So in that Kevala Jnana state of mind only, this shloka what we were discussing, that is action in inaction and inaction in action, that can be clearly observed, isn't it?
Yes, you have to stand in that state to understand what is action in inaction, in inaction in action.
Okay. Thank you, Aurobindoji. Thank you very much.
Come again?
Are there any traits or symptoms in a person who has achieved that Kevala Jnana?
Knowledge has no color, no differentiation between one person to another person, one animal to another person. Everything is consciousness.
Can it be experienced?
But
I feel it can be experienced.
It is that with which everything is being experienced. So it cannot be experienced as an object, but
Yes.
experience of I am is not an experience, but you cannot call it as there is no experience also. You know that you are. Aham asmi, I am there. That I amness is not an object like an experience of knowing that I know my hand, I know my leg, or I know my mind, I know my thought, I know my intellect, or I know the world of objects outside. It's not an awareness like that. At the same time, you cannot say that there is no experience of I am, because I am is my existence and my awareness of my own nature, my own thing. But can I call it as an experience? I cannot call it as an experience, because experience...
The moment we say, that becomes two.
Two, yes. So it is an experience of experiencelessness.
So I think Nirvana Shatka would be the final answer for all these things.
Right.
Okay, Arvind. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll call it a day. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night,
Hari
Arvind.
Om.
Hari Om.
Arvindji.
Thank
Pranam,
you.
pranam.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ
Good night,
ಮಹೋದಯ.
Arvindji.
Good night. ಧನ್ಯವಾದ.
Good night.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.